The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
But we're about to break that rule. Fight Club wasn't supposed to become a religion. It wasn't supposed to inspire real violence. And it definitely wasn't supposed to flop so hard that the studio considered burying it forever. But behind the bloody knuckles and the anarchist speeches, the real chaos was happening off-camera. Brad Pitt broke his own teeth. Edward Norton threw a punch that wasn't in the script. And the movie that bombed in theaters? It became the film an entire generation couldn't stop quoting. These are 23 weird facts about Fight Club. And buried in the madness, a box office disaster that became a cultural phenomenon. Number 1. The studio didn't want this movie to exist. When the Fight Club script landed at Fox, executives panicked. Too violent, too anarchist, too dangerous. They called emergency meetings, debated killing it in development. Multiple directors read it and walked away. Too risky. Even Rupert Murdoch hated it. Thought it would spark riots, lawsuits. The studio pushed back hard, slashed the budget, threatened to pull funding, told the writers to soften everything. But Fincher wouldn't budge. He saw what they didn't. A generation drowning in credit card debt and IKEA catalogs. Fox gave him an ultimatum. Smaller budget, less money, complete creative control. They thought the restrictions would kill it. Instead, Fincher sharpened the blade. The studio wanted it dead. They ended up funding their own destruction. Number 2. Fincher was willing to lose everything. Coming off Say 7 and in the game, he could have demanded millions. Studios were chasing him. But when he signed on to Fight Club, he took less than half his usual fee. Maybe less. No one knows the exact number. He walked away from a fortune just to make it his way. Before filming even began, Fincher locked himself away for months, sketching storyboards, planning every shot, building a world that felt like it was rotting. He saw generations suffocating under fluorescent lights, rage beneath every corporate smile. So he gambled. His paycheck, his reputation, his future. And the first thing he did? Cast someone willing to break himself for the role. Number 3. Brad Pitt chipped his own teeth. Not a prosthetic. Not makeup. Real dental work. Pitt walked into a dentist's office and asked them to break pieces off his front teeth. The dentist refused. Pitt insisted. He'd spent weeks researching real fighters. Broken noses, scar tissue, teeth chipped from years of fists. He showed photos, explained his vision. Tyler wouldn't have perfect Hollywood teeth. Tyler's philosophy was rejecting vanity, embracing chaos. So Pitt made the call, chipped them. The work was planned so it could be reversed. But for 4 months, Pitt walked around with broken teeth, changed how he spoke, gave Tyler a slight lisp. Different rhythm, made him sound unhinged. Co-stars said it was unsettling. Off-camera, Pitt looked like he'd been in a bar fight. And maybe that was the point. Tyler wasn't a movie star. He was a warning. Number 4. But breaking his teeth wasn't enough. Fincher wanted real pain, and Norton had no idea what was coming. In the script, the narrator begs Tyler to hit him. Parking lot outside Lou's Tavern. They'd rehearsed it a dozen times. Norton throws a fake punch. Pitt reacts. Standard choreography. Safe. But right before cameras rolled, Fincher pulled Norton aside, whispered something. Norton's face went pale. Hit him for real. Norton refused. He could hurt Brad. Ruin the take. But Fincher kept pushing. Told him Pitt's genuine reaction would be irreplaceable. The shock, the confusion, it couldn't be acted on. Had to be real. So Norton agreed. They set up. Pitt stood there relaxed, expecting the rehearsed fake punch. And Norton swung. Hard. Right in the ear. Pitt's head snapped sideways. Eyes went wide. And the first words weren't scripted. That moment made the final cut. Pitt's confusion wasn't acting. It was survival. And everyone on set understood. Fincher wasn't making a safe movie. He wanted blood. Number 5. And the pain kept coming. Both Norton and Pitt spent months becoming real fighters. Not Hollywood fighters. Real ones. 4 hours daily. 6 days a week. Professional boxing coaches. Taekwondo. Grappling. MMA. They didn't just learn to throw punches. They learned to take them. How to fall without breaking. How to look exhausted without faking. For Norton, who'd never been in a real fight, the training changed something. Connected him to raw masculinity he didn't know existed. Hours getting hit. bleeding, pushing through pain. Somehow it felt like therapy. For Pitt, it was precision, making every movement effortless, like Tyler had been fighting his whole life. Fight choreographer Jeff Imada didn't go easy. Told them if the fights didn't hurt to watch, they weren't doing it right. And it worked. By the time cameras rolled, they weren't actors pretending. They were fighters pretending to act. The bruises were real, the sweat was real, and the exhaustion? That was the most honest thing in the film. Number 6. But the most painful costume belonged to Meatloaf. Playing Bob required a massive prosthetic fat suit that weighed over 100 pounds. Every morning, 3 hours of makeup. The fake breasts were filled with birdseed for realistic movement. Meatloaf said it felt like being buried alive. He couldn't sit, couldn't move freely. The weight crushed his spine. But here's what most don't know. His father had just died. Right before filming, he was grieving, struggling. And then he had to wear that suit. Play a man who'd lost everything. The scene where Bob breaks down, where everyone chants, "His name was Robert Paulson." That grief was real. Fincher saw it, kept the cameras rolling. Meatloaf wasn't acting. He was mourning. Number 7. While Meatloaf carried physical weight, Helena Bonham Carter was drowning in darkness. Playing Marla Singer disturbed her so much she needed therapy. Marla wasn't just dark. She was toxic, suicidal. A woman who went to cancer support groups because she had nothing else. Carter had built her career on elegant period dramas. Marla was the opposite. Messy, broken, and the character started bleeding into Carter's real life. She couldn't shake the nihilism, so she hired a therapist, worked with them throughout production, created a ritual. The moment Fincher called cut, she'd switch back to her British accent, used the vocal shift as a wall, kept personal items nearby to remind herself who she really was. Whenever she changed out of Marla's ugly costumes, she became lighter, like stepping out of fog. Carter didn't just play Marla. She survived her. Number 8. But the strangest detail was hiding in plain sight. There's a Starbucks cup in almost every scene. Office meetings, support groups, apartments, everywhere. It wasn't an accident. And it wasn't paid product placement. It was Fincher's middle finger to corporate America. He worked with production designer Alex McDowell to hide Starbucks cups throughout the film. Subtly, in backgrounds, on desks. The irony was perfect. A film about destroying consumerism while featuring one of America's biggest brands. But here's the best part. Starbucks had no idea. They thought it was normal product placement. Then the movie came out. Their logo appeared in scenes about blowing up credit card buildings, destroying corporate culture. They were horrified. Fincher had played them, and there was nothing they could do. Number 9. But there was something even more hidden. Tyler Durden appears before you meet him. 4 times, single frames lasting 1/24th of a second. Long enough for your subconscious. Too fast for conscious recognition. First flash, photocopy machine at work. Second, the doctor's waiting room. Third, the support group. Fourth, just before the airplane scene. Fincher timed each one precisely. Wanted them to create feelings. That unsettling sense that something's wrong. Many viewers reported unease during these scenes. Couldn't explain why. Just creeping dread. That was the point. The film was replicating dissociation. Tyler existed in the margins, in the cracks. Your brain knew, even if you didn't. Number 10. When Tyler finally appears, he almost looked completely different. Brad Pitt wasn't the studio's first choice. Russell Crowe was. Fresh off LA. Confidential, Fox wanted Crowe. Tougher, more dangerous, more authentic masculinity. Crowe was interested, liked the script, but scheduling killed it. Then Matt Damon campaigned hard, wanted it badly. Fincher said no, too clean cut. Then there was Pitt, coming off romantic leads. The studio worried, too pretty, too much of a heartthrob. How could he play a grimy anarchist soapmaker? Fincher fought for him, saw Pitt's desperation to break his image, to get ugly, and he was right. The moment Pitt chipped his teeth, the transformation happened. Tyler Durden wasn't Brad Pitt anymore. He was something else entirely. Number 11. When Pitt became Tyler, most of what made him iconic wasn't even scripted. The hyena-like laugh? Improvised. Pitt visited a zoo, studied hyena sounds, thought they captured Tyler's predatory amusement at human weakness. The loose, confident walk? Pitt's creation. The way Tyler licks his lips, drums his fingers, Moves like he owns every room. All spontaneous choices. Even some of Tyler's most quotable philosophical rants were lines Pitt threw out during rehearsals that Fincher loved enough to keep. Tyler Durden wasn't just written, he was discovered, built piece by piece through Pitt's instincts. And what audiences fell in love with wasn't the character on the page. It was the chaos Pitt brought to life between the lines. Number 12. The most realistic scene in the film almost didn't happen. The chemical burn, where Tyler kisses the narrator's hand with lye on it. Rumors claimed they used real chemicals on Edward Norton's hand. They didn't. But the makeup was so convincing it traumatized the crew. Makeup effects supervisor Rob Botton spent weeks creating progressive prosthetic burns. Applied them in stages to show skin damage developing in real time. Norton studied medical footage of actual chemical burns, consulted burn specialists. The mixture they used was harmless, just created a mild warming sensation. But the visual effect was so realistic that multiple crew members became nauseated watching the filming. One camera operator fainted during the close-up shots. The realism wasn't just convincing, it was too convincing. Number 13. And that realism extended to everything. Even the soap. Tyler's whole business in the film is making soap from stolen human fat. Selling rich women their own asses back to them. The production didn't fake it. They learned real soap-making techniques. Used actual animal fat. The cast and crew made functional soap on set. Norton and Pitt trained with professionals to understand the chemistry. Some of the bars were even given to crew members as bizarre souvenirs. The technique shown in the film is chemically accurate. The process works. Tyler's speeches about the fat of the land, about recycling human waste into luxury products, it's all based on real science. Dark, twisted, grotesque science. But real. Number 14. The real danger wasn't the soap or the chemicals, it was the fights. Fight choreographer Jeff Imada had to invent new techniques for this film. He rejected traditional Hollywood choreography. Too theatrical, too clean. He wanted fights that looked ugly, desperate, real, where combatants got tired, made mistakes, suffered consequences. Each scene required weeks of rehearsal to look spontaneous. Multiple camera angles captured chaos while keeping actors safe. Imada introduced mixed martial arts techniques to mainstream cinema. No heroic punches, no stylized beauty, just brutal, visceral impact. The exhaustion you see on screen? That's real. Norton and Pitt pushed themselves until they couldn't fake it anymore, and those techniques changed action films forever. The Bourne series, John Wick, modern fight choreography, it all traces back to this. Number 15. All that realistic violence created a problem the studio didn't see coming. Test audiences hated it. Early screenings were disasters. People walked out confused, angry, disgusted. The violence was too much. The twist felt like a betrayal. The anti-establishment themes made them uncomfortable. Test scores were abysmal. Fox executives panicked. They'd funded a movie nobody wanted to see. The marketing department had no idea how to sell it. Do you pitch the fighting? The philosophy? The twist? They made trailers that misrepresented the entire film. Sold it as an action movie when it was really a psychological horror story about consumer culture eating people alive. The studio seriously considered shelving it, just cutting their losses and burying it quietly. But Fincher refused to change a frame, so they released it anyway and prayed. Number 16. And when it finally hit theaters in October 1999, the nightmare came true. Fight Club bombed. Hard. Budget, $63 million. Domestic box office, only $37 million. One of the year's biggest commercial disasters. Critics were split down the middle. Some called it brilliant social commentary. Others condemned it as dangerous, nihilistic trash. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars, called it macho porn disguised as philosophy. The studio had gambled on controversy sparking interest. Instead, it sparked walkouts, empty theaters, angry reviews. Fox executives called emergency meetings. They'd lost tens of millions. Fincher's reputation was in jeopardy. The actors wondered if they'd made a career-ending mistake. And for a few months, it looked like Fight Club would be remembered as one thing only: a colossal failure. Number 17. And something strange happened. Something nobody predicted. The DVD came out in 2000, and everything changed. College students discovered it first, then young office workers, people trapped in cubicles, drowning in credit card debt, suffocating under fluorescent lights. They saw themselves in the narrator, felt Tyler's speeches in their bones. Word spread fast. Video stores couldn't keep copies on shelves. The DVD became one of the year's best sellers, made over $55 million in home video sales, more than it earned in theaters. Suddenly, Fight Club wasn't a flop. It was a movement. Dorm rooms plastered with posters, office workers quoting Tyler at lunch breaks. The film found its audience, not families looking for entertainment, people looking for permission to burn it all down. Number 18. And some of them took it too literally. Within months of the DVD release, police started reporting real underground fight clubs. Basements, warehouses, parking lots. Young men gathering to beat each other bloody. They explicitly referenced the movie, called themselves fight clubs, adopted the rules, the rituals. It spread internationally. UK, Canada, Australia, Europe. Participants treated Tyler's speeches like gospel, manifestos for living. But here's what they missed: the entire point. Fight Club was a satire, a warning about toxic masculinity and violence disguised as freedom. Tyler Durden wasn't the hero. He was the villain. But these real clubs didn't see that. They saw the punches and missed the message. Fincher and author Chuck Palahniuk were horrified. The film they'd made to critique violence was inspiring it. Number 19. Palahniuk didn't hate the movie. In fact, he said something almost no author ever says. The movie was better than his book. The novel came out in 1996. Fincher changed the ending significantly. In the book, the narrator ends up in a mental hospital, believing he killed Tyler, but uncertain if it worked. In the movie, the buildings actually explode. The narrator stands with Marla, watching the skyline collapse. Palahniuk said Fincher's ending was more satisfying, more complete. He loved the visual storytelling, the way Fincher captured themes he'd struggled to articulate on the page. It's rare for an author to prefer the adaptation, but Palahniuk meant it. He felt Fincher understood the story in ways even he hadn't fully realized. They became friends, collaborators, because sometimes the student surpasses the teacher. Number 20. Even Fincher couldn't control what happened in other countries. When Fight Club finally came to China in 2022, more than 20 years after its release, authorities made a change. They rewrote the ending, added text on screen saying police caught everyone. Tyler was arrested, sent to an asylum. Project Mayhem was stopped. The buildings didn't explode. Authority was restored. Order maintained. It completely gutted the film's message. Everything Fight Club stood for. Erased with a few lines of text. International fans erupted in outrage, called it censorship, a betrayal. The backlash was so intense that Chinese platforms partially restored the original ending later. But the damage was done. In a film about systems controlling people, a system had controlled the film. The irony was perfect, and Tyler would have laughed. Number 21. Back in America, the film created a different kind of division. Generational. Gen X and early millennials connected with it instantly, saw Tyler's rebellion as prophecy, especially after the 2008 financial crisis hit. Suddenly, the anti-capitalism speeches felt less like fiction and more like warning. But older viewers, baby boomers mostly, saw something darker. Glorification of violence, dangerous nihilism, irresponsible filmmaking. The debate still rages. Academic studies have documented both sides. Positive effects, people rejecting toxic materialism. Negative effects, romanticizing violence and chaos. Fight Club influenced fashion. The red leather jacket became iconic. It influenced political movements. Occupy Wall Street protesters quoted Tyler. It shaped how an entire generation of men thought about masculinity and identity. Some for better, some for worse. But nobody walked away unchanged. Number 22. There's one detail most people never notice. Even after watching it dozens of times, every corporate logo that appears in Fight Club is damaged. Subtly. Microsoft, Apple, IBM, every brand on screen is distorted, scratched, or corrupted in some way. It's a visual metaphor buried in the production design. Capitalism rotting from the inside. The corruption made visible. Alex McDowell's team spent months ensuring every logo was altered. Backgrounds, products, computer screens, signage. Most viewers never consciously catch it, but it works on a subliminal level. Just like Tyler's flashes, your brain registers the wrongness without knowing why. Even the 20th Century Fox logo at the film's opening is slightly damaged. A warning from frame 1. The system is broken, and it's everywhere you look. Number 23. And there's one final flash most people miss. In the very last frames of the film, as the credits start to roll, Tyler appears one more time. Single frame, just like at the beginning. It's easy to miss. Blink and it's gone. But it's there, and the meaning is clear. Tyler isn't dead. He's just waiting. Dormant. Ready to return the moment the narrator loses control again. It bookends the subliminal appearances from the start. Suggests the cycle could begin again. That dissociation, that split, it doesn't just disappear because you shoot yourself in the face. It's always there, in the margins, in the moments you're not paying attention. Fincher's final mind game. A reminder that in a film about losing yourself, the self you lose never really goes away. It just hides and waits for the next blackout. Bonus fact. Remember when Tyler Durden explains his projectionist job? How he splices single frames of pornography into family films? David Fincher actually did it. For real. Throughout Fight Club, there are 4 explicit penis images hidden in single frames. One during the scene with Tyler's boss. Another when the narrator talks to Marla on the phone. More scattered through the film. Single frames. Just like Tyler's method. The MPAA ratings board didn't catch them all before theatrical release. Some made it to theaters. Fincher admitted it later in interviews. Said it was the ultimate meta-joke. Tyler breaks the fourth wall by splicing porn. So Fincher, playing God as director, did the same thing. The character's chaos became the filmmaker's rebellion. In a movie about losing control, the director proved he had all of it, and used it to become Tyler Durden himself. Fight Club started as Hollywood's biggest risk. A script executives wanted dead. A box office bomb that lost millions. Critics called it dangerous. Audiences walked out confused. But somewhere between the empty theaters and the DVD players, it became something else. A cultural revolution. A mirror held up to a generation choking on credit cards and cubicles. Brad Pitt broke his teeth. Edward Norton threw real punches. Helena Bonham Carter needed therapy. And Fincher? He hid chaos in every frame. The movie that was supposed to disappear became the film nobody could stop talking about. Behind the blood and the philosophy, it was just as unhinged as what ended up on screen. And somehow, that's exactly what made it legendary. If you love uncovering the secrets behind movies, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. And tell us what film we should tear apart next. And if you think firing Brad Pitt was chaos, wait until you hear what happened with Back to the Future, EUEB. They fired their lead actor after 5 weeks of filming and reshot the entire movie from scratch. Click here, and I'll see you there.